to look at a crotch mahogany sideboard that we had some staining issues with, and hopefully we got the color right so that we can then get the hardware put on this thing. We can get it sent out on this big basically wedding venue that we're doing. We're doing a whole bunch of pieces out there. So anyway, today we're going to talk about manufacturing and tariffs. I feel like I started this conversation yesterday, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper in on it today. People seem to like this kind of content. And again, as an importer of brass hardware from India and a USA furniture manufacturer, we literally make everything right here in America. I feel like I got a pretty good view of how all this stuff works. But what I think was missing from the conversation about tariffs is that people don't understand what happens downstream from that tariff. They kind of have an idea, but they don't actually understand what it means to own a factory, right? Which I have a factory, and we obviously produce furniture, right? It's a big deal, and we produce about 500 pieces a year, and it's a good middle-class living. Our business is called The Resplendent Crow, and you can go to theresplendentcrow.com and see what kind of furniture we make, and again, it's pretty pricey, but it's what we do. We make it here, right here in St. Louis, Missouri. We ship it all over America. We have our own shippers that we keep on staff, and it's been a good business for us, So that's what I talk about. I talk about the business of furniture making, the business of making hardware, the business of owning a manufacturing and paint company, which we do right here in St. Louis. So anyway, talk about manufacturing. So the thing that I think people are missing about the whole manufacturing process is they think that when a country puts a duty on something, that it's just business as usual, right? They don't understand that when a manufacturing company agrees to produce something for you in a foreign country, they have to produce a certain amount of product. Otherwise, it becomes A, inefficient, or B, which is worse, it becomes a money-losing proposition, right? So if a factory, has 100,000 square feet and they're producing whatever 1,000 units a week, if operation goes down to 250 units a week, that is a money-losing proposition, meaning the business is losing money every day it opens its doors. And so what happens when a country puts a tariff on that product and the price then goes up, it forces the manufacturers downstream, which are either producing ores, materials, micro assemblies, mini assemblies, things that go into the finished product. Those companies have to kind of make a choice. And this is one of those things that, again, I don't hear enough people talking about. The idea that an American manufacturing just say, well, I'm only going to order 250 widgets this week, even though I normally order 1,000, that doesn't work, right? That manufacturer won't take that order. That manufacturer will increase the price of that good if the manufacturer wants it, right? So there's things that happen in a conversation because, again, you have to have a certain amount of work in order to keep your factory open. And this is the thing that creates the conundrum between the overseas manufacturers and then the people in America that are selling those goods. And people, again, just don't understand this. And so I'll break it down here real quick. So basically, if in our case, right, so we do hardware from India, right, brass hardware. Well, if the 25% duty comes in on that, right, so we have to go from paying, what used to be, like 2%, now we got to pay 26%. The issue becomes, well, who's going to pay that tariff, right? And everyone always says, well, the end user pays. It's always the end consumer. If you listen to traditional economists, if you listen to traditional media, it's always the end consumer, right? And this is 100% incorrect. Like it's as wrong as it possibly gets, because what they're doing is they're excluding a lot of factors which only business owners know. A lot of these people that are talking to you, they're PhDs, they operate in a theoretical world, and a lot of this tariff conversation has thrown their understanding of economics upside down, and they don't know what to do, right? So they're basically bullshitting you. They're telling you, theoretical, things that they learned when they were working on their PhDs and all this kind of stuff, and they're not looking at the reality of the situation, right? And the biggest factor when it comes to tariffs and manufacturing is that America has is the single largest market for goods and services in the world. There's nothing like it. I mean, America consumes more than probably most countries combined, and not only do we consume the most product, we pay top dollar, right? The prices that we pay for things are 10 times what you get in other markets. And this is, again, something that a lot of these economists and people that talk about tariffs just can't seem to wrap their heads around, okay? And it's like, the analogy I like to use is like, if you think about a bottle of water, guys. So everyone knows that if you go to Walmart and buy a bottle of water, you're gonna pay 99 cents for that bottle of water, right? You go to a convenience store, gas station, something like that, you're probably gonna pay $2, $3 for that bottle of water, right? You go to a nice hotel, you're probably gonna pay $5 for that bottle of water. You go to a concert venue, you go see whatever, comedians, rock acts, whatever, you're probably paying $8 for that bottle of water, right? So it's all about your location. It costs the same amount of money to produce that bottle of water because it's manufactured where it's manufactured, but where you sell it is everything. And people just do not understand this concept. So when America puts a duty on products that are being imported, the people that are producing those goods understand this, right? Because they know that they can sell their product in America, for whatever, $10, or they could sell it in China, for $1. And so they're going to try and sell it in America every single time. So when America says, hey, you know what, like, you're going to have to lower your price, you're going to have to eat some of this tariff with us, whatever, you have to lower the price on your thing 10%, something like that. Most of these people are going to say no problem, right? Because the access to the American market is literally everything. And entire countries have wrapped their tax structures, their labor structures, their manufacturing structures, the way that they subsidize businesses and grow industries are all created around America. Like, this idea that people are creating industries to go serve Europe is complete garbage. No one cares about Europe. Europe's dead, right? No one's creating industries to go serve Australia or some of these other countries. Like, there's not enough business there. And not only is there not enough business, they don't pay enough. And that's one of the things that people just cannot wrap their heads around. America is the greatest consuming nation that has ever existed. And so when you put a tariff on something, that money is going into the American coffer, right? And the intent of this, at least the way that I kind of understand it, the intent of these tariffs is obviously going to be to pay down debt and things like that, bring in more revenue, but it's going to be to cut income taxes, right? Which is going to be good for everyone, which is going to make Americans actually be able to produce more because they're going to be able to pick and choose what they want to spend their money on. And this is something that bleeding heart liberal type people just hate. They absolutely hate it. The people that have tons of money, that don't care about money, that don't think about money, they don't understand it either. They could care less. They want to help everybody because it just does not affect them, So what we have going on is these tariffs are going to bring in extra income to America, which is going to be good for everyone. At least that's what I think. I could be wrong, but the manufacturing side of this, again, is something that people don't understand. So as a furniture company and hardware company, if I don't have enough work, I can't simply just bring people in and pay them to paint walls or whatever, right? There's not enough money to do that. There might be for like a week or two, but you can't do it indefinitely, right? So you have to perpetually keep business coming in. Like, my wife works 24/7 to keep sales coming into our business, the Resplendent Crow. And again, if you guys are in the feed, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm, it helps kick it around. I don't know what everyone's up to this morning. Hopefully you're drinking coffee or whatever, getting ready. But anyway, point is that you can't just pay people in perpetuity because there's not always money coming in, right? So you have to constantly be working on the sales cycle, okay? Now, think about the other countries that are sending stuff to America, right? A lot of these businesses don't make their own products. They simply have something made overseas. They bring it over here, they mark it up substantially and pocket the rest, right? They pay their costs and then they get to keep whatever's left over. They're using that super cheap labor in other countries to basically make money, because it's too expensive to make a lot of things here. You have to sell things for a lot of money, which we're going to talk to about how you actually are able to up prices. People don't understand this, but you up prices by making a better product, right? By making a better brand, you could then charge more for your water, right? If you go to you can charge more for your product, excuse me. If you go to the store to buy water, I mean, everyone knows you can go buy a regular old, whatever Walmart brand bottle of water, 50 cents, or you can pay $2 for the Fiji water, right? Fiji water is a brand, and it's a higher end brand, so they get to charge more for their product. Is it more expensive to make Fiji water? I doubt it, maybe a little bit, but point is they have a much higher margin on their product because they have that brand, right? So anyway, back to the manufacturing thing. So you have all these factories over in China. Like, you literally have entire districts that all they do is make textiles, and you have other industries where all they do is make screws, and you have other, like, literally manufacturing districts where all they do is CNC cut out shit, like just constantly cutting out patterns for textile industries, cutting out, you know, PPF patterns for, you know, PPF car companies. I mean, it's crazy how much stuff is literally cut. You have districts where they just computer cut furniture parts, right? Things for, you know, like IKEA and Solder and all these flat packing furniture companies. They just constantly cut this shit out, and they do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for dirt cheap, for next to nothing. And anyway, when these American companies reduce their orders, it completely upends what they have going on over in China and Thailand and Indonesia and all these places. And people just do not understand that this is a massive problem for these countries. It lowers the revenue these countries get. It lowers the country's government's ability to control their people and to pay their people. And if these people don't have work and aren't able to pay their citizens, it creates unrest within the country. You know, so our government today understands this probably better than we've ever understood it before. We know that these countries have to operate in America. They have to sell their products, right? And a lot of people are saying, well, if you put a 50% tariff on something, well, then the end consumer is just going to pay. It's going to be 50% more expensive. And this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Like, it doesn't work that way. You know, will the end consumer end up paying a little bit more? I think they probably will, especially as this thing drags out. The consumer will end up paying more. But if they can offset what you're paying in income taxes, it's a win-win for everyone. You know, so that's kind of what's coming down the pipeline with this thing. But people have got to wrap their heads around the downstream manufacturing and logistics side of putting a tariff on a country. It's very important for people to understand this stuff. And again, I don't hear anybody talking about it. Like, it's always just the American consumer is going to have to pay the bill, and everything's getting more expensive, and the American consumer is going to get screwed. And that is not what's happening. Again, and as I say this as someone who manufactures furniture and does hardware, like, this is literally what I'm seeing. We have to pay the import duty on our brass hardware that comes in from India. And again, it's nothing, guys. It means nothing to us from a margin standpoint because the markup is so freaking high. If I had to pay 100% tariff on my Indian hardware coming in, I wouldn't even change my price. It's not even that big of a deal. And people need to get educated on just how cheap it is to make something in China. I mean, just how cheap it is to make something in Vietnam. And people are not able to wrap their heads around it. The reason you can't make money as a manufacturer today is because you're competing with people that make $1 a day. And I don't think people understand this. Like, it's a major problem, you know. And if you could put high tariffs, I mean, I would be putting 100% on things. This idea of putting 25% on something is ridiculous. But if you could put high enough tariffs on things, it makes American products more competitive. And the thing is that people seem to think that there's no hope, right? We're never going to compete. You're never going to own a business. You're never going to be able to make anything here in America. You can't compete with these corporations. And I'm here to tell you guys, you can. Like, you absolutely can. If you get the price up on things enough to where it's not advantageous for Restoration Hardware and Williams-Sonoma and Crate & Barrel to make all their shit over in Vietnam and China, then you absolutely can make money, you know. But you got to make it harder for these people just to do that, because the labor is so cheap, guys. Like, we can't compete as a country if, you know, we're competing against people that make $1 a day, you know. I mean, and have no regulations. And this is another thing that people don't talk about when it comes to manufacturing stuff overseas, is that all these countries and all these companies, they don't have to pay regulations over there. They don't have to deal with all the bullshit of having a factory in Vietnam that they have to deal with having one here in America. It's very different. They don't have the OSHA and the EPA situation that we have here in America because they're a third world country, you know. So again, if you want to start a business, if you want to kind of be able to chart your own course, like, you have to understand how this tariff thing works. And I'm telling you guys, tariffs are a good thing. It's going to really help people to do their own thing. You got to be willing to do it. Like, if you plan on just working for somebody else forever, it's going to be harder. You know, wages will come up with tariffs if there's less competition. If there's less competition overseas, there will be more jobs here for Americans, but it's only going to be for the people that are really good at what they do. You know, and I've talked about that many times, but I'm not gonna go off on that too much. I really just want to talk about the manufacturing and tariff side, because I just don't think people understand this. You know, it's a real problem. People think that product just shows up on the shelf and it costs what it costs. And I'm here to tell you guys, it's not. And when people tell you, well, tariffs, if you charge a tariff on a product, that product is then going to be whatever, 50% more expensive, it's complete horseshit. And I use the example of hardware. I talk about this all the time. So if I buy a piece of hardware in India, it costs me 10 bucks. I sell it here in America for 100, right? There's some hardware that costs me 10 bucks. I sell for $150, okay? Now, you got to imagine there's a lot of products here in America today that's how a lot of this stuff starts. So you're basically being upcharged on everything significantly so that people can get rich for basically doing nothing. You know, you want to know why people struggle to have jobs here in America? It's because we don't have anything. We don't make anything here in America. And the people that, you know, went and got all these college degrees and got all this, you know, knowledge work, they're worthless because, again, you've got too many people that do this kind of stuff. It's the reason, like, you know, it's hard to be successful on social media today because everyone and their brother can do it, right? Everyone has a phone and everyone has access to the same technology. So you're competing against so many people. Only the cream of the cream of the cream get to rise to the top. And that's one of the reasons we can't compete today here in America when it comes to manufacturing. These people over in China, they just absolutely eat our lunch when it comes to regulations and labor costs. You know, so it's very competitive, and tariffs are going to really help people to be able to live out their dreams of making something if they want to, right? If you want to start a small business and produce a good, I think in America you'll be able to do that with these tariffs, but you have to understand how it really works. And okay, so I'm at work, guys. Anyway, so you have to understand how this stuff works. And again, I just don't think that people give it enough thought. The way that prices are determined on the store shelf and how that works with overseas manufacturing. And again, if you understand how markets work, you understand that America is the single greatest market that has ever existed. And people in foreign countries will sell their souls to get into this market. Trump 100% understands this. And it's because he's a business owner. He's a marketing guy. He understands how markets work. And, you know, this isn't a political thing. You don't have to like this guy. But this is something that people, again, have to wrap their heads around. When it'd be like when I sell a really high-end piece of furniture, like I could sell that high-end furniture to the wealthiest people in my area, or I could sell it to the middle class in my area, or I could sell it to the poor in my area, right? So I've got these markets that I can choose from. Obviously, I want to sell it to the rich, right? Because that's the only way that I can operate a business. Only the rich are going to pay $5,000 for a credenza. I can't sell a $5,000 credenza to the middle class, right? And if I could, it'd be, you know, one or two of them a year, whereas with the wealthy, I can do one or two a week, you know? So the Chinese manufacturers and the Vietnam manufacturers and the India manufacturers understand this, and they will do anything they can to stay in this market. They will pay a premium, which would be a tariff, to enter into this market, right? And when the tariff comes in and I have to pay whatever 25% on that $10 part, which takes up to $12.50, it's very easy for me to go back to the middleman that I'm dealing with back in India and say, look, man, I got to pay $250 on this hardware. I need you to eat a buck of this thing, right? So I'll eat some of it. You got to eat some of it, you know, but then he's going to go to the people that he gets the brass from, right? Because he's not a brass. He doesn't create brass, which over there in China, in India, they do, right? So he's going to go to those people and they're going to say, hey, we got to eat some of this tariff from America because our manufacturer isn't going to order as much hardware if he has to pay more for it, right? He's got to charge more for it. So it's going to slow everybody down. So everybody will eat a piece of this. And at the end of the day, the American consumer may end up eating some percentage, 5, 10, 15%, whatever that might be, right? Which people will say, well, that's ridiculous. We shouldn't have to pay that price. You know, we're America, blah, 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 blah. But that's not how it works, guys. Like, you already are getting products cheaper than anybody in the world. You get products so cheap here in America that it's almost a crime, to be quite honest with you. And we think that we're entitled to the cheapest of the cheap products, right? But we're unwilling to accept the fact that every country in America is clawing at our borders to get in here to sell their products, right? So if you want super cheap products, you have to understand that there's a negotiation going on between me, the seller, the middleman that I buy the hardware from, the people that actually make the hardware, and then the people that make the raw materials that go into the hardware, right? So you got 4 different people within that supply chain that are all having conversations about how to get this product to Eric here at the Resplendent Crow so they can sell it to the American consumer, you know? So people have got to wrap this wrap this around their head. Like, it blows my mind that people immediately think that whenever a tariff is put in, it's always the American end consumer that pays it. And that's just not how it works. And I say this not as some, dickhead on television who's never owned a fucking business in his life. I say this as someone who's never went to high school. I didn't even graduate high school. I know nothing about economics. I don't have any degrees. I just do the shit. And this is how it works, guys. So when these people tell you that, oh, it's just Americans are going to take it up the ass, it doesn't work that way. If I slow down the orders that I'm bringing in here from India, right, and the person that I'm dealing with in India probably has 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 customers that he's dealing with. But if everybody slows down their orders 20%, 25%, whatever it might be, that really screws him back in India, because you think we're operating on high margins here. Like I'm selling something that costs me $10 for $100, okay? They're doing the same thing downstream in India. They're getting paid too, right? And the people downstream further from them, they're all getting, everybody is getting paid, So it's not like no one's making money. Everyone's making money, but someone's got to pay for this shit. And the American consumer is the one that's paying for it. It's the hottest market and the most desirable market that has ever existed, So that's what I want to talk about today. And it's, I just feel like we have to continue to beat this drum so that people aren't basically, sort of I'm looking for. They're not, propagandized by the economists, right? They're not propagandized by the people on television, right? MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, all these people. These people don't do anything. They basically have an easy street. They just talk to a monitor and tell you guys the news, right? Or they tell you what somebody told them to say. They don't actually know anything because they don't do the work, right? We do the work. We've been doing it for 8 or 9 years at this point. And if you want to see the hardware that I'm talking about, go to theresplendentcrow.com and just search hardware. Like, it's all there. We sell hardware. We sell furniture. We sell it all over America. We've been doing it for a long time. And we don't sell, I'm not trying to sell you guys advertising for boner pills. I'm not trying to sell you guys better health or VPNs or something like that. I'm just trying to let people know, like, this is how business really works. This is how business works as someone who's uneducated. I don't have any education. I just busted my ass forever. And it's a good middle class living. You're not going to get rich, but it works, So that's what I talk about on the stream. So anyway, look for these streams most days. I try to talk about something. If you guys want me to talk about anything in particular, throw it in your comments as we do the streams over the days, weeks, years, whatever. And happy to talk about things. But generally, I just talk about something I'm seeing in the news that is kind of tailored around business. And I show people what we built here at theresplendentcrow.com. We have a 12,000-foot factory, business, whatever you want to call it, here in St. Louis, Missouri. We make lots of furniture. We paint lots of furniture. It's a great business. And we actually do the work here. And it's not, we don't outsource everything. We do outsource our hardware, right? But we absolutely make everything right here in St. Louis, Missouri, as it pertains to our furniture. So whether we're making sideboards, dressers, credenzas, headboards, whatever it might be, it's all done right here. We hire people right here in our area, and it's a good business. So anyway, I hope everyone has a great morning, and we'll do this again. But again, so resplendentcrow.com, that's where we sell all our furniture. And so you can see that we're not bullshit. We're the real deal. And you can go to modernwoodworker.com. That's just a place where I sell hardware. I got some drawings on there and stuff like that. That's more about the woodworking side. It's something that we're working on. We also have the resplendenthome.com, which is a blog about how we build our furniture, where we put our furniture, the pretty pictures, the stuff that sells furniture. It's very important that people understand this is a real business. We're talking about this from a practical standpoint. This isn't a theoretical thing. We didn't get this out of a book. We didn't learn this from, Milton Friedman or Karl Marx or any of these people. We just learned it by doing it. So it's good business. So anyway, everyone have a great day, and we'll yak to you guys later.